Good evening. This is the Exotic Lifestyle Show, and I'm Dr. Nan, and I am so excited to tell you about our evening. I have a very special guest coming to join us, and many of you might already know him. He's young, he's vibrant, he's smart. Let's see, I think we're going to have a human being that I got to meet several years ago. And he's going to come in and tell us a little bit about being an exotic
Hello.
nomad.
I was thinking of
Hi.
coming in after that intro and being like, hello, how are you today?
Coming from down under. So how are you? This is Cameron Potter. Cam Potter of a byproduct of Karen Potter.
I am a byproduct.
Yes. And my friend, I was just thinking about how long it's been since we've known each other. It's been a long time. I feel like I've watched you grow up, although you were already grown when I met you, but it's been fun to watch you evolve.
I was just in the bathroom before this, and I was like, she's kind of like my fairy godmother. She comes into my life at the moments I need someone to talk to, and you've always been there for me. So I'm delighted to be here.
Oh, I love that. I'll be your fairy godmother. That sounds really cool. That's a dog title I've never had before, so I'm there. All right. So Kim, you do a lot of different things. You've started off as a comedian, and that seems to be your kind of the ground from which you blossom is making people laugh and bringing joy to human beings, no matter what you're doing. Have you always known you were a comedian?
I guess I got into it very young because I was really bad at sports. And so I kind of had to just default to theater. And then I just enjoyed making people laugh much more than making people cry. And then it just kind of kept going from there.
That is more fun for sure. So you've been doing this professionally. I mean, you're not just a funny person that, your teacher always said, you're so funny.
Most teachers did not think I was funny. I was pretty serious in school. I had several bosses, actually, that when I would tell them I'm a comedian, they'd be like, I had one that literally said, you're a comedian? You're not funny at all. And then years later, he saw a comedy show of mine, and he's like, oh my God, I didn't know you had this in you. So it is interesting that you don't always have the same, the same personality in the workplace or, in school as you do outside of that.
Right. So I wonder, maybe we can explore this on some other time. Is like, what is it that makes a comedian? I mean, because like you say, you don't even have to be a really funny person in your day life, but you can be a great comedian. So there's got to be wit and timing and delivery and charisma, and there's so many more pieces that go into that.
Yeah, it's a great question. Really, and it also, there's so many different types of comedians. Like people like stage and tell stand-up jokes have a very different skill set than people who improv or do clowning, which is what I love to do, which is like very physical and stupid, and you try to not be smart. Yeah, they're all super different, and it requires like different tool sets.
Now, the Sex Talk with My Mom show came a little bit down the road. Mm-hmm. You were already doing comedy, and then because you were making so much fun of your mom when she was dating, you used her as your prop. So in using her as your prop, that got you some accolades, and then she probably was like, hey,
It
I
was
went
more
in on
like
the
I
action.
was like, hey, I kind of want in on what you're doing because she had her own YouTube channel, and so
Okay,
I
so
was
she was
riding
already
her
doing that.
coattails
Okay.
because I was doing stand up, and at
Okay.
first I had like one joke that was about her, and it just like my mom having her own YouTube sex and relationships show, and people thought that was very funny, and then so I was like, okay, maybe I'll add more about that, and then it turned out to be like full sets about her, and I was like, okay, there's something here. I should explore this with you, and we made a video, and then we decided
Yeah.
to make a podcast.
She
It's
she
good
is
content.
good content.
Yeah.
she's, she's a hoot. So I know where you get your comedic timing from, because her job for my life is to make me laugh and to also light me on fire. She likes to just light that fuse and watch me blow.
Does the same to me. Yes.
Does she?
She is.
She's kind of an
I bet she's
instigator
in the
that
chat
way.
right now if she's.
I think she is. I saw her pop in, so I'm sure she's like talking to us.
Thank you.
Oh, she says thank you. Um, so you and your mom started your own podcast, the Sex Talk with My Mom, which has been a huge hit. I mean, that thing's just going crazy. And you've taken it to another level with the high-end video, and I mean, really, it's impressive production, and it still has the you feel like you're listening to your friends,
Thank you.
conversation. Yeah. I have to be careful though, because listening to it when I'm driving is dangerous.
That's awesome.
I've had to pull over a few times because I was laughing to tears, and I was like,
well, you came on the show and gave some great advice. A couple.
I did. But I mean, you guys managed to make squirting funny.
Well,
so
that's easy topic to make fun of. There's a lot of fluids flying around.
Right. Flying fluids. That's a whole nother day. Huh? Make your fluids fly.
Wait, can I ask you a question?
So, go ahead.
I'm curious, what led you to want to create this exotic lifestyle show?
So much of what I've been doing since 2011 has been in the exotic erotic world, even trying to differentiate between exotic and erotic, and porn and erotica and all those things. And so I get a lot of people that see my heading, my exotic lifestyle, whatever, retreat or show or whatever, and a lot of people think it's just about swinging, and that's so limiting. I imagine swinging could be a part of an exotic lifestyle, but there's so much more that's exotic in life. Like, I'm having chai tea right now, and to me that's like an exotic beverage because it's got so many different layers of spice, and it tickles your tongue, and it's warming, and so I started thinking, I would love to get people to come on that have other definitions of exotic. And you actually were the first person that popped up in my mind.
That's awesome.
Because you're a maverick, and so you're living life big, and but you're so raw and real about it. So I thought you would be great because you're doing this nomad life. So tell me I'm so fascinated, and I know so many people that are jealous of your courage. So tell me more. What do you call it?
So for a long time, like right towards the beginning of the pandemic, I realized I did not want to be in my apartment alone and single. I was feeling very lonely and depressed. I said, like, okay, when I get vaccinated, I'm just going to go travel and get the fuck out of here. And, but that kept getting pushed back and back as the pandemic kept going on. And um,
Mm-hmm.
ultimately, I decided it was time to take this trip to South America and visit, eventually get down to Argentina, where my father's from, and see where my roots are from. And
Okay.
so in doing so, I kind of,
All right.
I didn't want to just like go and visit for a week. I wanted to actually like live there and start talking to people
Yeah.
who'd done this type of thing. And one of them was like, hey, you should stop in Colombia. And I was like, okay, maybe that's a good idea. So I spent a month in Colombia first, and then went to then Peru and then Argentina. Um, and I realized that people do live like this. Like they really like. I put all my stuff in storage, so there's no lease, there's no rent, and then you can kind of just fly to a different place. And somehow it works out with the cost of living being so much lower in certain places that it's almost like living in a U.S. city. So you can kind of work, it worked within my budget. And I was like, oh, this is an interesting experience to live in a completely different culture, speak a completely different language,
Yeah.
see what life is like when you're not like tied to one specific location. And it was terrifying. It,
Okay. Yeah. So the whole time or intermittently?
leading up to it, I was really nervous. And I was actually listening to a podcast called, what's it called? Digital Nomad Experts. This talks about life doing this type of thing. And that really like soothed me as I was like packing up all my stuff and, you know, making final arrangements. It really felt like I was about to prepare for my funeral.
Did you feel like you were running away from home?
But I was definitely like, okay, what's gonna happen? Like, I literally have no idea what's gonna happen when I get on this plane.
So did you have a place to stay? Did you have a known place to stay when you first arrived?
Yeah, I had a hostel that I was going to stay at for the first 3 nights. Yeah, and hostels I kind of associate with younger, like backpacking journeys. So I wasn't like so stoked about it. I mainly chose to do it because my friend was like, you need to be able to meet people, and hostels are a great way to do that. And that turned out to be accurate because in those 3 days, I met the people I spent the next month with. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Now, were these all,
no, they were all
digital
local
nomads, as you
Colombians?
Call
Yeah.
so
they gave me a cool experience of seeing what it's like to live over there.
I'll bet. And so I was talking to Mark about this. He's like, oh my God, this is so fascinating because, you know, he's spent his whole life tied down to job and house and kids and family and all this stuff. And to have that sense of total freedom. That's the part that appears exotic to me, is just this free spirited, what am I going to do today? Where am I going to go today?
Yeah, it does.
Kind of life.
I think we take for granted all the things that we have in place to make our life comfortable that we know, like what grocery store we shop at, you know, where are we going to park,
right?
Or how are we going to get around, or where are we going to do laundry? All these things we tend to just, at this point, once you live somewhere for a bit, you figure out. But when you go somewhere new, you have to, and you're living there, you have to actually figure out all those things pretty quickly, because all those things become essential pretty rapidly. Yeah, exactly.
Food, shelter.
Can I even drink the water here? What are the outlets like?
Yeah.
What is the currency like? Everything is new. In Argentina, you don't even use the like. Yeah, you can use their pesos, but the way that you get pesos is usually like on a black market. It's not through like an ATM or something like that. You usually like change your US dollars for like on like basically under the table so that you get a better exchange rate. Yeah, so like everything is brand new. So while it's freeing, it's also very chaotic.
Yeah. Were you Did you ever feel threatened? Like your life being threatened, or like you were getting into some dangerous
I
territory?
mean, I tend to be a little neurotic at times. And so I think I'm in danger when I'm not in danger. I would say the
Okay.
first month in Colombia, I definitely felt more in danger. Um, I mean, I just was
Mm.
super safe going out at night. Like I would tell my friends, like, "Hey, don't take me to this area that, like, I've heard bad things about." Because even though they might feel comfortable there, I look different. Like my skin's a little whiter than the people over
Yeah.
there. Like I was wearing like American brands, which I tried to not do, but like it's just the stuff I own, and so I kind of look like a target.
Right.
And then from all the other travelers that were coming through there, um, I kept hearing stories that were like not fun stories to hear. So I'm like pretty high alert. Yeah. A
Your mom
little.
says a little.
Yeah. A little neurotic. Yes.
Was she getting the calls like,
No,
"Oh
I
my
did not.
God, what am I
I
doing?"
would actually say, and she could chime in over here about the calls, but I actually our communication went down while I was abroad. And I think you did hear when I was a little scared, but she was probably more scared than I am. So I didn't really want to, exacerbate her.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, you both have
Yeah,
you both have
the
a little
apple does
similar
not fall far.
personalities.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of freedom associated with it. There's also this other complication, which is that, I have to work when I'm over there. It's not like I'm just on vacation, exploring nonstop. So there's a whole balancing act of, you know, how much do I work? How much do I go out and explore? How do I not feel guilty about missing out on either of these things?
Right. Yeah. So it's still the work-life balance,
Yeah,
just a different
exactly. Same
continent,
thing.
huh?
Yeah.
So did you have to save up a certain amount of money? Mark's a money guy, so he's always like, all right, so how much money did he have to save to do this? I mean, how did he know he would be comfortable
Well,
for this amount of time? So I'm gonna fire some
yeah.
questions at you that
Uh,
Mark wanted me to
I
ask.
mean, my work never stopped. So it was, the revenues, whether I was
Okay.
here or in Los Angeles or in South America, was the same, which was, yeah, I
Okay.
mean, that was
That's awesome.
one of the reasons why I didn't take the trip earlier was because I really needed my business to be in a place that it would survive if, I was offline for some hours or, I needed a team kind of underneath me to help out. Um, and then like, in different countries, food or like basic amenities are like so much cheaper than in the US. And so
Right.
I think if anything, I probably spent less over there. What's more is that you have to pay for the airfare, but if you're there long enough, the
Yeah.
airfare's not that bad.
Now, when you're there, do you like if you went like from Colombia to
I
Argentina? Is
went
that where you went first, or
Colombia,
Peru?
Peru, Argentina.
So once you're there and you book flights, is it a different amount than if you're booking it from the States in terms of, I mean,
Oh,
is it a cheaper way,
yeah,
different
totally.
airlines that are local?
Um, Basically, I would use Google Flights for everything, but I have heard that Google Flights, like, or these websites will give you different prices depending on where you actually are accessing them from. So you can actually use a VPN to say like, oh, I'm in this country and see what the prices are, and you might get a better deal.
Oh,
Yeah, that's a hot
that's
tip.
kind of cool. Yeah, hot tips. I'm gassed for those. So how much of your trip would you say you were like really alone, doing your own thing, didn't really have anybody to bounce ideas off of, and or versus with a group or with
The
some people that
first
you knew?
month, I was more alone because I was living in an Airbnb most of the time. I had a few friends that I would hang out with at night or on the weekends. Um, but yeah, it was definitely more lonesome, which then led me, I met one of the podcast hosts in Medellin, Colombia, that for the podcast I had been listening to, because I heard him mention he's in Medellin. Yeah,
Oh my
and I was
gosh,
like,
that's
hey,
awesome.
so, you know, this has been my experience, a little lonesome. There's this thing that he kept talking about, which is like a group of digital nomads called Wi-Fi Tribe, where they choose like 3
Okay.
or 4 cities every month, and like they collect a group of 15 to 20 people that want to live there and work there for a month, and they'll provide them housing, usually like nearby each other or in the same place. It kind of feels like Big Brother a little bit, and it just so happened that they were going to be in Buenos Aires when I was going to be there. And so I said, oh, maybe I'll link up with them, because he was like, this changed my life. You should definitely do this. And then it really did. It completely flipped my experience. I was constantly surrounded by people. Granted, they were more, for the most part, they were mainly like European or American. So that it didn't feel as like integrated with the culture as well. In certain respects, yes, but others not. But when I was hanging out in Colombia with only Colombians, and it felt a little more authentic. This it was a little different.
You speak
Not
Spanish
really.
fluently?
I'm conversational, and I definitely improved, and I even took Spanish lessons throughout my time there.
Oh, that's good. Yeah. I would imagine that would definitely accelerate your learning, because you just have to, because when I was in Colombia, we were in Cartagena. Nobody spoke
Yeah,
English, or
no,
at
no, no.
least they
I was
didn't
speaking
admit
Spanish
to
the whole
it.
time, except when I went to Argentina, and then I was with
Yeah.
a group of English speakers. Yeah, but it became a
Oh,
challenging
nice.
I
Right.
go back and forth, and I did start defaulting to Spanish at a certain point. Yeah.
Did you really? All right. This is my big question about language. Did you ever dream in Spanish?
I not that I remember. Yeah, maybe if I
Okay.
was only there for 3 months, so maybe for like 6 months I'd start dreaming Spanish. Yeah.
That would be interesting, huh? So, 3 of the biggest challenges for you on this nomad
Okay.
adventure.
One thing that I thought of earlier was like, one thing we take for granted, especially here, is you kind of have a sense for who you should trust. But when you don't speak the language and you don't know the culture so well, it becomes a little more, and you're in a state of more neediness because you don't know anyone.
Right.
You're vulnerable.
Vulnerable.
It becomes
Yeah.
difficult to know who to trust. So that was something I
Yeah, I would
needed to
imagine.
learn. And it definitely became easier once I was with that group that was kind of like all vetted, like we were all there for the same reason. Yeah.
Okay. So they created like
Yeah,
a little
exactly.
safety tribe for you.
That's kind of what you pay this group for. Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
It's like just a
that's
travel
exactly.
group.
Yeah. They call digital nomads. Like you can actually
Okay.
you can think of it as like a nomadic tribe that moves from place to place. Yeah, it is cool.
So cool. So 2 other challenges.
There were times that I had a weird run with the cops in Peru, where they were trying to kind of like push us to give them some money to like get out of stuff. That wasn't so fun.
Yeah.
I was with a
how did that
Peruvian.
turn out?
It was just me and her, and then she kind of just yelled at them and said, "Don't, I'm not giving you money," and take me to jail, because they were trying to tell her that she was drunk driving, but she clearly wasn't. Yeah. Yeah, it was pretty nuts. Yeah, but that was
Yeah.
a unique experience. I don't want to, say that was common. So yeah, I mean, that is part of it, is like you don't know if you can trust the government or the police in less developed countries.
I would imagine you just can't.
Scary. Yeah.
That would be my default.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, you can't trust him here. Well,
Yeah, no, it's a
we're gonna
whole nother
trust him
level of
there.
distrust. But it's what I mean, they're the ones
Yes.
actively like stealing from you, and you know, it's pretty. Yeah,
Right.
yeah. My friend in Colombia was like, "Oh yeah, we got frisked by the cops last night, and he stole my debit card." I was like, "Are you kidding me? This is not good."
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Okay. So any other challenges
Maybe
you can think of?
maybe sleeping. It was pretty noisy where I was in a couple places, and there's not as much double pane glass as there is here, and
Oh,
so yeah, maybe a little rougher to sleep. Yeah.
yeah. And 3 lessons that you learned about yourself. Like what did you learn about
Yeah.
you as a human being while doing this?
A big reason I took the trip was to prove that like I can do something this scary. I can survive on my own. I have the strength to do this because it was just so daunting to me. And I did it, and I survived. That was like a huge accomplishment.
Yay!
And I had a great time. So another thing that another thing I learned was there's benefit to not working all day long, like, and hobbies are really important. And when I was over there, like going to salsa classes or you know going to trying out new restaurants, those were activities that like I felt like I needed to do because I was in this new place. And in doing so, I realized, oh wait, it's really important that I'm near other people, that I'm expanding my mind in ways that are not just work. Brought me a huge level of happiness that I kind of don't experience as much here. Yeah.
Oh, that's
Yeah, it was cool.
awesome. Yeah.
The third thing I learned, I guess I'll say I learned Spanish. I mean, that was a huge thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Just how to survive in countries that are speaking a completely
Totally.
different language than you're used to. So
Yeah.
you were gone 3 months?
Yeah.
Well, 3 months. Now, a little birdie told me you might be going on another one.
My little birdie mother. My goal would be to maybe do another trip. You know, it's interesting. I had a lot of motivation the first time around because I wanted to see what Argentina was like, to see what my heritage comes from, and so I don't have that motivator now since that's checked off the list. So now it's kind of I'm trying to find more meaning in why I'd go to a particular place, and maybe it's that like it's just fun to be in a new environment. I did already schedule another trip for July and August to go to a clown school in France. So, but there's a strong motivator there. Like he's like a world-renowned teacher, and we'll be doing that. But we'll see if I travel before then. I'll be in his clown class.
The clown. Oh,
yeah.
This is the clown class. Okay. So I missed that word. Yeah. He's a world-renowned clown. Okay.
That is.
So you're just gonna be clowning around over there, huh?
Yeah. I'm excited.
I'm
a little terrified of that too, because apparently he's just this grumpy old man that sits there with a drum, and you come out on stage, you try to make him laugh, and then inevitably he doesn't laugh, and he just hits the drum and like tells you why it's funny, and that's how you're supposed to learn how to be funny. Exactly.
The art of humiliation, right?
I guess he calls it like negativa, this style.
Negativa. Oh, I'm not sure. That seems kind of counterproductive to being a clown, but I guess clowns are often kind of tortured souls.
Exactly.
So, right? You have to tap into that deep emotional wound. He's going to make it happen faster.
You do a fair amount of traveling, though, it seems, right?
I used to before COVID, but that really kind of came to a screeching halt, and I haven't picked back up yet. I'm still not really comfortable flying.
I got COVID from flying,
you know.
So I'm with.
I just read a study that said like 27 out of 28 airplanes that they tested the wastewater had COVID in them. So you can just assume people have COVID on the flights you're on. Peeps, wear your mask. N95. Exactly. Please wear an N95 mask.
I know when I got, how I know I got COVID from this person is they were coughing up a lung. It was so intense. And I didn't know, they weren't wearing a mask. And I didn't know how to suggest that they wear a mask, but I could see that she was literally coughing so much that I needed to get her water. So I went and got her water.
Oh,
I'm like,
sitting right
down.
Next to
I
her?
got her water, and then I was like, and by the way, do you want this mask? I have an extra one. And she's like, no, I'm good. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm not great, so we'll see how this goes.
I don't understand how people can't grasp that, I mean, you're taught from the time you're a child to cough into your elbow, right? That's like a quickie little mask, but it's not very effective. But if you're wearing an N95 mask, it keeps those droplets full of goo inside your mask, and they don't blurt out all over the place. Talk about flying fluids.
I know. Yeah, I ended up getting it from that. I assume that's where I got it from. But I don't know. Maybe I was wearing a mask too, so who knows?
Well, one mask reduces it probably by 50%. 2 masks reduces it by up into the 90%. So it's like, you both have to kind of be containing your fluids. So how would you, I mean, did you consider this an exotic adventure?
The word exotic is interesting. I never woke up and said, I'm on an exotic adventure, but now that we're having this discussion, I think it was very exotic. I was definitely out of my comfort zone. I guess I'm curious how have you defined what it means to live exotically?
Well, that's why I'm doing this show, because I think that there's lots of definitions to it, and I think we get so limiting with labels, right? It's like as soon as we label something, now we've put it in this box and we close the box and we don't want to let it out, and we certainly don't want to expand the box. So, with our sexuality, with gender, with anything, we try to box people up. And so the word exotic, like I said, people kept misinterpreting what I was doing as just being a thing that was for swingers. And I kept having to say over and over again, lifestyle doesn't mean swinger lifestyle. This is an exotic lifestyle. Now, if swinging for you is exotic, cool, you're welcome. We don't judge. But it could be that we're just going to an exotic island, that we're drinking exotic drinks, that we wear exotic clothes, that we enjoy exotic perfume, that we like exotic food. And so I'm trying to look at it from a sensory perspective, that there are certain things that tantalize our senses that, for me, the word, they feel exotic.
That is interesting.
And the other reason I wanted to define this, and I'll come back to you, is I had that word banned on social media when I tried to put the word exotic in the exotic lifestyle retreat in an ad for Facebook. They banned it and said exotic was a banned word. And I'm so confused by that. I'm like, we all know that there's exotic cars, right? And there's exotic islands, and so that led me to think, well, maybe human beings are misdirecting the word exotic, and we need to expand it for them.
Now that you bring it up, I mean, when I think of prior to this discussion, I think if you were to use exotic for me, I would think like, yeah, an exotic island, something like something far away that's off the beaten path, that's, you know, very different from your day to day or something like that.
Right. And maybe things that are taboo that appear exotic. I mean, going to a strip club, people might think that's exotic because it's out of the ordinary. It's exotic dancing. It's tantalizing. It's
Yeah.
It's toying with the senses, and whether it's
Yeah.
visuals,
Oh my God.
I mean, all the senses.
I remember
So
my friend maybe several years ago took me to like this. I think it's exotic dancers. They weren't really. It wasn't a strip club. It was like pole dancing, or I don't know. Maybe burlesque is better. I don't know.
oh yeah, burlesque
So
is
I
incredibly
remember
exotic.
leaving there. Yeah. First of all, I usually don't like strip clubs. I feel like a lot of pressure. I feel kind of, I don't know. I feel very on edge usually in a strip club.
Need to sanitize.
So that's dirty. Yeah, maybe dirty, but also like I just feel like no one's happy in this place right now. But when I went to the place I went to was called Jumbo's Clown Room, and I went with another podcaster, another sex podcaster, and she was like, "You got to come with me to this thing." Maybe she had some friends performing or something, and I left, and I was like, energized. I was like, "What's going on?" I felt like awakened. It was such a different experience. And I think it's because the performers really wanted to be there just to I mean, I'm sure it was to make money, but it was mainly to show their craft, you know, to access this part of themselves. And I think the viewers kind of got it. It can access that too through them. So I was a fan of the exotic dancing. We'll say that. It's cool.
Have you ever gone to a Greek restaurant where they have belly dancers? That's always kind of a you know, especially if you're there with your family.
I think my mom would be like fully encouraging all.
Oh,
yeah,
your mom would be up there dancing with them probably.
Yeah, so I would say I lived exotically, to answer your question. I think it was very much out of my comfort zone. My senses were definitely awakened, and you know, yeah, I was extra sensitive to all the newness.
Yeah. So when you're living an exotic lifestyle, do you find that it affects your sexuality at all?
I think so. I think I was probably, well, I think I was more open-minded. I think it was very particular to like the container of traveling. Like I knew that there was going to be an expiration date, most likely on any relationship that I would enter into.
Yeah.
So then it, you know, maybe more open-minded to being in relationship with people I typically wouldn't necessarily be in relationship with, whether that's friendly or sexual or romantic or whatever. Yeah, so I would say that it opened me up a bit.
And for me, that's, I think, what Exotica does is that because, you know, if you come back to my yoga roots, the first and second chakra are very much involved in our sexuality, and they're about safety, security, but more importantly, creativity. And so when you're exploring and you're forcing yourself out of your comfort zone, that is very first and second chakra, because you're still seeking safety in that new arena, but you're also being very creative. And when we open up that part of ourselves, the sex energy can really be a high.
Yeah.
Yeah. So do you have really, really great sex on your trip? I'm just gonna put you on the spot.
Yes.
Inquiring minds want to know.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on your definition of sex, but yeah, I think I,
You know what? Sex is in the
yeah, I
experience of the
definitely
beholder.
did. Yeah, it was great. Although you received a panicked call at one point where you had to help me through one of the
I did.
situations. Um,
Yeah. I wasn't going to bring that up unless you did. So if you want to
I
speak to
don't think
that,
I
you
can
may.
get
If
into
you
the
don't, you don't
specifics of
have
it.
to.
You
Okay.
definitely helped me during a time of crisis. Yeah.
Now I do recall in our conversation, because we were able to FaceTime, is seeing you in this very exotic place. I mean, this like was very lush, and it was, it's like, this is
I,
hot. This is good.
yeah, I was
Although he's in
literally
crisis.
crisis in paradise. It was absolutely gorgeous, and my
Crisis.
insides were completely in turmoil.
That's part of that balancing act. That there's a philosophy that you can't have massive amounts of pleasure without an equal amount of pain. That they will always balance each other out. And so I always tell people, when you're in deep pain, please know that there's really great pleasure coming your way.
What happens if you're in great pleasure? Should you be anticipating great pain to come your way? If you're experiencing great pleasure,
Say that
should you then
again.
be anticipating great pain right after?
I try not to. I try to really just focus on, wow, this is amazing pleasure, and just be in the moment and soak it up and swim in it, and then not pay attention,
Yeah, totally.
just
I
deal
mean,
with
it
whatever
makes
comes,
sense.
right?
Like, when you're experiencing great pleasure, you then are going to experience the absence of that at the least. So, which can be painful.
Yeah. Yeah, and that can feel like pain. Yeah. Yeah. It can feel like loss. It can feel like,
Yeah,
neglect. It can feel like
yeah,
um,
yeah.
boredom,
I mean,
depression,
it
all
goes
those
with
things.
sex too. Like I was just thinking how crazy it is. It's sex seems to be on our mind all the fucking time, and it's both simultaneously one of the most fun things to do. It could be one of the most fun things and pleasurable things to do, and also one of the scariest things to do with the biggest amount of risk.
Isn't
It's
that
nuts.
the truth? Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah.
I haven't figured out that balance yet. How much to it's a hard balance.
That's that that's why I think human beings gravitate
Mm,
toward relationships where some of that risk
totally.
can be reduced, where you have a partner that you get to know and trust, and you are on the same page, and you make sure that you're protected in ways that you need to be protected. And I think that's why probably
Yeah.
monogamy is still the default, because it is the
Yeah.
safest avenue
Mm-hmm.
for being sexually free. Where people fall down is they don't understand that monogamy it doesn't mean your partner won't cheat on you. It means you're agreeing to meet your
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
partner's sexual needs. If you both agree to meet your partner's sexual needs,
That's
then it's a
the thing.
playground,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. That's it. We often think of like the contract being like, oh, well, these are the things we're not going to do together, or to other, like in this relationship, like, oh, we won't.
Right. Yeah. We all have a
Right.
list of what the other person shouldn't do, right? You're not going to do this. You're not going to do that. No, 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 no. The monogamy agreement is what I am agreeing
Oh, I
to
love
do
that.
in our
That's
relationship.
great. Yeah.
It's a very different twist, and it
So
puts people
in
in a
your
different
ideal agreements, would
headspace.
you say something like, okay, well, you're going to go down on me once a week or something like that?
Good. You can make it fun. You can make it like the consent list for BDSM. Here's my menu, and
Yes.
how often do I want this and this and this and this, or how often am I willing
Yeah.
to do this
So
and this and this and
I'm
this?
curious, in those situations, when a partner, say you are in a monogamous relationship and a partner really enjoys these things, and then you don't feel necessarily up to it, do you recommend pushing yourself to go and satisfy their desires and needs, or do you wait?
I think it's more about being able to have that conversation. You know, it's like, hey, babe, I'm really horny, and she's, you know, knee deep in their dirty diapers or whatever, you know, and she's like, not right now. How about let's make a date for tomorrow night? Okay, cool. It's not, you're not just saying no. You're just saying right now is like, I'm so not there. But I did have a couple that I learned from that, because when they had little kids, she would always say no. And so finally he said to her, listen, you know, we gotta have a different agreement. And he said, how about when I'm feeling a little randy and I want to get frisky with you, you give me 15 minutes to turn you on, to get you in the mood. And I'll take 15 minutes to do what I know you like. And if it doesn't work, you know, I'll
No
stop
way.
and I'll take your no. And she agreed. And he said, and she's never said no.
Of course. That's hilarious.
Isn't that great? And because I think men, especially when you're raising like young families, men aren't in that maternal mode as often as women are. And so if you're the primary caregiver for children and they're pulling at you all day and sucking on you and climbing on you and you can't even go to the bathroom by yourself, women are feeling like, I just can't, I can't have another person touch me and demand something from me. So he turned it around and said, what I want to give to you. Like, start off with a massage, start off with rubbing her feet, or emptying the dishwasher. You know, that can make a lot of women really horny. So so he figured out what it was that she needed, and then he served her first, and worked out really well for them. So I've always thought that was a great
I'm definitely
idea.
keeping that in my back pocket when the time.
Yeah, it's like, you can't say no until I've done 15 minutes on you.
15 minutes for your sake. It has nothing to do with me. It's all about your right now.
Right. I'm going to give to you for 15 minutes. Because I think a lot, you know, sadly, there's still a lot of males out there that are very penis centric with their sex. And they think that it's all about that, instead of realizing that men and women are both, like, we're sexual head to toe, you know, body, mind, spirit. I mean, there's lots going on there. But I think a lot of guys have been taught that it's just about your penis and that's all that matters, is what you do with that. And then to realize that you are so much more than a penis. My God, you know, you've got all kinds of tools you didn't know you had.
Yeah. A lot.
So, my gosh, so do you have any other inspirational words for people that are on the fence about being a nomad, packing up all their shit, getting rid of their apartment, and just traveling?
I would just say do it. Really, if you look at the actual, like, practical steps in doing it, it just requires you to find a place you want to go, buy a plane ticket, and go to the airport. This is literally all it really takes.
Get a passport.
I mean, there are so many more details, but like that really, once that's done, everything else you'll need to, it will have to fall into place.
Now, for any of these places, you didn't have to have extra vaccines or anything, right?
I went to my doctor ahead of time. I forgot what they said. I think they said I had all the vaccines I needed. I don't think I got extra.
Okay. Where did you go in Peru?
I went to Lima. I was only there for like 4 days. And that was a surprise trip. I wasn't expecting to take that. So I might not have had the right vaccines for Lima. Sorry.
Now, that's in the Sacred Valley?
I don't know.
Is that what it's called?
It's like their main city. Apparently like 7% of the population of the whole country lives in the city. Yeah. and the food is
Wow.
unbelievable. It's the best. Yeah.
Unbelievably
It's
good.
like Japanese food. It's very strongly influenced by Japan. And it's like so
Huh.
fresh because it's right on the water, and maybe a quarter of the price of what it would cost
Mm,
in Japan.
wow. And no,
I
no
really wanted to go to
temptation to
Machu
go to
Picchu.
Machu Picchu?
Get tickets
Did
because they're
you?
super limited because of COVID. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah. So I
still
didn't
though.
plan far enough in advance. So I have something to go back for. Oh, really?
Mark and Kara climbed it. It was, yeah, yeah, it was a great
Oh,
experience for a
well,
father and
maybe if I
daughter
have a
to do
daughter one day,
together.
we can go
Yeah,
and do that.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a great thing to look forward to. So, Kim, I want people to know about your company. I mean, you have created this podcast, pleasure podcasts. We know that pleasure word is like my favorite word besides exotic. So how did that happen, and how do people get a hold of you if they want to learn more about this and
Sure.
how they
Yeah. I
might
mean, it all started
apply?
because it's the podcast Sex Talk with my mom. Like we were doing the podcast. I was making a little money through advertisements, and I kept talking to other sex podcasters that were coming on the show or that we were friends with, and they needed help getting advertisers, growing their shows, just collaborating with other podcasters. And I was like, well, there should be a network. Like we should be able to do all this together. And so about 4 years ago, I created this network called Pleasure Podcasts to help grow and monetize these sex-oriented podcasts. Um, and so if any of the listeners are curious and they want to listen to more sex-related content, I'd say start with Sex Talk with my mom because it's pretty fun. Uh,
Yeah,
and
it
then
is.
we have a bunch of other podcasts in the Pleasure Podcast Network. You can go to pleasurepodcasts.com and check them out.
Excellent. That's so cool. So you, out of necessity, this you created this, seeing a need for
Yeah, totally.
not only you but all these other people, and it's doing so well that
Yeah,
it supported you traveling to
totally.
other countries for 3 months and living on the
Yeah,
just living
totally.
on the nomad
Yeah,
land.
and yeah, I would encourage people if you don't need so much more money. I mean, it depends how you want to do it. If you want to live in luxury and like live out of a hotel, then it's going to require a lot more money. But if you are just going to get an apartment for a month, it's probably going to be the equivalent to wherever you're living or less.
Now, did you like couch surf, or how did you
Yeah,
used
yeah, you can
Airbnbs,
on Airbnb, I didn't
hostels
realize
first?
you can kind of negotiate with the people hosting. And so if you go a long time, you can be like, hey,
Oh,
okay, I see your daily rate is this, but what about this for a month? And then it usually is much better.
excellent. Did you have any weird experiences in the houses you stayed in?
um, I'm trying to think through all the different places that I stayed. Um, one of them, one of them was a little bizarre that it had like a full garden indoors. It's kind of interesting, but they were like, I don't know. Nothing so crazy. I was pretty strategic when finding the place. Like I knew that it was going to be a large part of where I spent my time and my comfort. So I spent a lot of time figuring it out.
Yeah. Would you go check them out first before you made a commitment? Because I mean, I know just apartment hunting for Kara in New York,
Yeah.
we went into some
Uh,
wingdingers.
I
Oh,
couldn't really get. I guess before the one in Colombia, I went in and saw it for like 3 weeks. I knew I was going to live there for 3 weeks, so I went in and told them, hey, can I check it out for a little bit beforehand? And they were cool with that.
great. So Megan, the blue hair girl, says
I
I
know
would
would
love
be
to live in
totally
an
into that
indoor
kind of
garden.
thing. It was pretty
Wouldn't that be
cool.
awesome? You just roll out of bed and
Yeah,
pick your fruit for
it was just
breakfast.
a little weird. It really did feel like I was in nature. It was kind of cool.
I imagine that maybe Bali will be on your list, because I think that would be a very cool place to explore. Indonesia, you
Totally.
know, Vietnam. I mean, so many places around the world
Totally.
to explore. So, last question. Did you have to go through a re-entry program when you came back?
Luckily, it was right around Thanksgiving. I might be in that re-entry program right now, actually. Like hopping around,
Okay.
like my friend's house who's not here to another. Like, so I'm really, I don't have a home right now. So I'm reintegrating a little bit and trying to figure out how do I remain sane in doing this.
So maybe that could be a suggestion for this Nomad group, is to have some kind of a conference about when you go back to the real world, what do you have to do? How do you have to do it? They need a therapist in their midst.
Yeah, I actually left my therapist upon returning home. So yeah, maybe that'll be a new, it should be a new addition to to my sanity.
Yes. Well, I know that just going to hedonism for a week,
Oh,
you have to go through a reentry program, because it's like you go outside, you go, oh shit, I gotta put my clothes on.
Any reentry suggestions, or are you just saying like I feel a change when I come back?
I think there's a sense of depression that can happen, because you've been on that high for that exotic high continuously, so there's a little bit of a flight or fight, so you probably have a little bit of adrenal exhaustion. And this time of year is a time of year that people need to hibernate anyway. So I would say this period of time for you, rest, nurture, get a massage, eat a lot of root vegetables, soups, stews, that kind of stuff. Just really nurture and take care of yourself. If you feel tired, go lay down, do some restorative yoga. Just really honor the fatigue, because that's your body trying to rebuild the system that you've had on high alert.
Totally.
And
I love all the
excitement.
suggestions. As you were saying that, I was like, oh, I'd like to do that. I'd like to do that. I'd like to do that.
So make a big pot of soup, stew, I mean, that's honestly the kind of thing we all should be doing this time of year. I mean, look at animals. A lot of animals hibernate this time of year. So, but as humans, no, we push through it. God dang it, we're gonna get her done.
Yeah,
and then we wonder why we get sick.
I'm pushing hard right now, so hopefully I can just chill for a little bit.
Yeah. Well, make sure every day that you take some rest, that you do something that's nurturing and nourishing for your body.
Thank you for that.
And your mind. You're welcome. Thank you for making this happen.
I'm so honored
today.
that you would
I am so honored.
I don't think of my life as a very exotic lifestyle, but when you frame it this way, it becomes much more exciting.
It is very exciting, and I can't wait to hear about your next adventure. So I'll send you a list of questions that you can think about on your next nomadic trip.
Sounds awesome.
Then we'll get back together. And you know what? I'm always available to you when you're in crises, no matter what country you're in. So
that means the world. Seriously.
I love you so much, Cam. You're amazing, and I'm just so happy for you that you've taken charge of your life this way and just stepped out and done something so courageous and brave and adventurous and exotic. So,
thank you, Dr. Nan.
You're welcome. All right, so next week I'll be back and I'll have some more exciting people to talk to, and we're just going to keep exploring what is exotic. What is an exotic lifestyle? How can I have what she's having? How can we have what Cam's having? And maybe how can we do these things without having to go to another country for 3 months?
I'm tuning in. I would like to know that as well.
Yeah, so these are all the questions we'll be answering. And Karen Lee Potter, we love you back.
We love you. Check out Sex Talk with My Mom if you haven't yet.
please. And follow on Instagram, Sex Talk with My Mom Pod. And go to their website, Sex Talk with My Mom. They have a YouTube channel. You know, follow them, give them your love, because they are amazing and they're doing great things for humanity. So, you know, and they're pretty dang exotic. So,
all right. Love you.
All right. Love you, Matt.
Bye.
Thanks, everybody, for popping in. Bye.